So we're continuing on with my Fly series of reviews. This week we are talking about Return of the Fly, which is a very weird movie. And a franchise that is kind of weird in and of itself, right? It is about a guy who turns into a fly, and that's the plot of this franchise. But, you know, next week we'll be talking about the Curse of the Fly, and then we will start tackling the Jeff Goldblum movies. So I did a whole spiel about the backstory of the first Fly and kind of where that movie came from. So if you want to check that out, I highly recommend watching this previous review, just for some context. But I'll go over a little bit of it. So basically, just to explain where the sequel came from. So basically, the first Fly movie was a send-up of B movies. It was a slightly more intelligent send-up of B movies, right? But it was a B movie, and it had a very low budget, and Fox didn't really want to put it out under their label, but when they were screening the movie for the first time, they thought it was so good that they're like, this needs to come out under the main 20th Century Fox banner. And then that movie came out, was a big hit, so they immediately rushed a sequel into production with an even lower budget, which is so bizarre, because in some ways, it means this movie becomes what it was trying to be different from. The first Fly movie was trying to be a send-up of those B movies while playing around in those B movies. It was a very intelligent movie with interesting themes and ideas. Yes, it was a B movie, but it was more than just a B movie at the same time. It was kind of, in a way, I would equate to Jaws. To me, Jaws is a B movie in some ways. But it's smarter than your average B movies, and so it kind of falls into its own little thing in a weird way. This movie being rushed in production means that this 1950s era of monster creature features, that kind of B movie style that movie was trying to be different and more intelligent from, is now what this franchise has become. Only 2 entries later. Or sorry, not 2 entries later. 1 entry later. Which is very bizarre. And I think also it just shows like how bad this movie is. First of all, even Vincent Price, before he passed, would talk about this movie in interviews. And even he thought it was bizarre. Like, hey, you got this first movie that's in color, and then you watch the second one, it's all in black and white. It's really bizarre. Even he acknowledged that. And then the plot of this movie doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Because you have the first movie is about this experiment with this fly that went wrong, and then you get to the second one, and now his son from the first movie is now trying to redo his experiment. Why? There's no good reason for it. It doesn't make any sense. And so it just makes, like, there's the whole movie's like that. You can just nitpick little things like that just poke holes in that whole movie and what it was trying to do. It's truly awful. And the effects are lame. That being said, even though I am complaining about this movie, and I am making it sound really bad, and in some ways it is, you could still watch this movie and it be entertaining. It's got Vincent Price in it once again, who makes every movie he's in slightly more enjoyable. Actually, not slightly. He elevates any movie he's in. And despite the effects being lamer and lower budget and just not well put together like the first movie, it didn't really matter. It still was fun enough. There are other creature features at the time that look worse than this movie, and I could, so I don't know. It's not great. It certainly isn't a classic like the first one. There's a reason no one talks about this movie. I'm sure many of you who knew about this version probably didn't know about this sequel at all, or its next sequel, which I'm not even sure how this is going to turn out, because again, these are all first watches for me. I'm very curious to watch this one though. But yeah, the Fly movies are a very interesting bunch of movies, and I'm very excited to talk about the rest of these with you guys. Let me know your thoughts. Like, share, and subscribe.